Welcome to the Succession Planning Show. Oh, that's a bit of alliteration there, sort of between. But anyway, welcome. It's been a long old summer, but we are back in a new format, slightly new format. So, second Wednesday of the month, this is the place to be at the Succession Planning Show. I'm Nikki Larkin, Director of Succession Planning, and today I've got a fabulous guest, Pete Ames. Before I go over to Pete, let me just tell you what and why we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about the problems that businesses are having in growing. And the key thing that businesses have been telling me is it's the lack of the right talent to grow. That could be attracting talent internally, but also growing in talent that's already there as well. So Pete is an absolute expert, and he's going to explain why in one moment, why he's an expert. We're going to be talking about unlocking growth stalled by talent acquisition. So, Pete, why have I bothered to invite you? Why are you the expert?
I presume, Nikki, it was for my dulcet, brummy tones. Yes, so a bit of context then. I work for a business. I'm the director of a business called Recruitment Pioneers. So we're a consultancy firm that specializes in helping recruitment businesses grow and scale. So I'm not a recruiter, but I work very closely with a lot of recruiters. And just to give a bit of context there, I've got one client whose fees are in the £3,000 per placement role. I've got another whose fees are above £30,000. So full range of seniority roles. I've got clients in engineering, I've got clients in accountancy, I've got clients who are incredibly niche, working in very, very narrow sectors such as the data center world. I've got people who specialize in specific regions, Liverpool, for example. So full gamut. But what I have observed from working with these clients and sometimes push them towards to make sure it works is that no matter the seniority, no matter the location, no matter the niche or the expanse, one thing consistently makes it easier for a business to hire the right kind of talent. And it is having a really strong EVP. So I'm here today to share what I know about that.
Brilliant. So, I think you just mentioned what the EVP stands for, but can you just reiterate that, just because people sometimes pass it by with the little letters? Remind us what just
Yeah, I'm going to be using it a lot because it's much
employee.
faster. Because
So
the
by
full
the
name,
end of the day,
you'll all
we're
know that
all going
VP
to know
stands
employee
for
value proposition. So that will be in the little test at the end.
yes.
Fabulous. Employee value proposition test at the end. Okay, brilliant. Because we have those that have previously been watching Britain's broadcast, we have touched on this before. So it shouldn't hopefully be completely new to those watching today. However, we are going in a lot more detail than we've ever been before. Really good. It's not even hints. These are going to be a proper framework for you to work on. So over to Pete. I need to shut up.
Oh no, Nikki. No, but thank you for handing it over so beautifully. So EVP, really summarized. Why should they work for you? What's in it for them, right? And I think generationally, there's been a bit of a switch. Millennials definitely started it. Gen Z absolutely have embraced it. There used to be a time where we all felt we were lucky to have a job. Oh, thank you for employing me. Those days are long gone, long gone. My generation
At the
learned 2000
moment,
at the moment. Well,
until
I
there's
think
the
it's
next
been a trend.
recession.
I think it's been a trend actually that we have all learned, that I learned in 2008, as did all of my friends. Loyalty to your employer is a fool's game, because the second things get tough, you get cut. That's what we learned from that redundancy lesson. So let's not be loyal. It's business. It's just business, nothing personal. So I'm going to go where I need to go to make the most money. And that has really driven into my generation and the generation behind. So you've got to offer more than just a job and a pay packet. And that's what the EVP talks about. And the best way I've found to explain this, forgive me for this little indulgence, is I want to share a little story, a little analogy to try and bring it to life. So if it's okay, I'm going to hop into my slide deck now, Nikki, which I think hop away is this one. So look at that car. That is a car of my dreams. It's a Ferrari. It looks like it's going fast just
Is
on
that
the
one of the
picture.
£1 million ones?
Oh yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
thought
yes,
so.
Nikki. I have ambitions, high
Yeah.
ambitions.
We don't mess around here.
No. Succession planning is all about the big bucks. So that car is really fast and looks really good. Okay, and that's what most people want from a career, the whole package. Okay, but when you look at that car, it's actually made up of two very discrete things. On the one hand, you've got the performance. So that's a Tesla, which is in fact faster than the Ferrari, 0 to 60. Don't think the handling's quite as good, but it's pretty good handling. Corners well, drives pleasantly. Tech inside is reliable and strong and efficient. So that's the performance. That's what's under the hood. Alternatively, you could focus not on creating a car that's a high performer but doesn't look super great, and just focus on a car that looks really good. So here we've got a traditional boy racer. It's got the spoilers, it's got the bucket seats, it's
In
got the
the eye
lower
of the
suspension.
beholder, it looks
Eye
good.
of the
But
beholder,
yeah.
very much, yeah. It's got the impressive colour. But we all know that underneath that hood is a 50cc engine that will struggle to take the shopping up a minor hill. And the reason I'm talking about cars in this context is that when it comes to a job, there are two aspects. There's the surface, the look, and then there's the spec that sits underneath. And what we tend to do is, when it comes to EVP, if someone has made an attempt on it, they focus on the things that are easy to add on. It's easy to add a spoiler. It's easy to change the seat. Same thing applies to trying to put together this is why you should work for us. We have early Friday finish. We do pizza Tuesdays. Perks, lots of perks come out when most people do an EVP. And they do matter. People like a spoiler on a great car. But if you've just got pizza Tuesdays, oh, but everything else about working here is rubbish, it's not enough. It's not enough to attract, and it's definitely not enough to keep. The other things that commonly come out is CSR and charity. Now, these things are important. There's a lot of research that says people do value CSR in a business, but again, it won't compensate for a crappy under the hood situation job.
And also, it's almost becoming just an expected thing, isn't it, as well?
Yes, it's a minimum. It's a necessary thing to have. You should have some kind of CSR presence because people like to feel their lives have meaning and to make the world a little bit better, even if your job necessarily doesn't let you do it that way. It's very good. And social interactions. Now, that one, I don't want to leave the wrong sense that social doesn't matter. It does matter. We now live in a world where a lot of people have remote working. They're only in the office 2 or 3 days a week with the team, often trying to get a lot of stuff done in that time frame. But teams that socially bond are shown to be much more efficient and much more stable. I work with, in fact, I'll just come out of this because this is worth talking about. Recruiters, I work with them. One of the things that most commonly happens is somebody will hire a new candidate, make the offer, and then that candidate goes back to their job, hands in their notice, and starts to feel ostracized from their team. Their social world, for a lot of people, is their workplace. And all of a sudden, they're being left out of meetings, and it's a horrible feeling, and it's not replaced with anything. So social is really important. If you're going to hire somebody and you're trying to lure them across and you think they're a flight risk, engage them in the social side of the business as well as other things. So all those things matter. They just don't matter as much as the stuff that's under the hood. And I think, Nikki, when we were talking about this, you used a wonderful phrase to describe this, to do with some farmyard animals.
Yes, you can't put a lipstick on a pig is still a pig.
Yes, exactly. That's a much more succinct version of this story.
Indeed.
I couldn't find a pig with lipstick on it as a picture.
No, obviously I've been watching Real Housewives too much to have these sort of phrases. I just want to, just for a bit of housekeeping, Housewives housekeeping, then those of you that are watching live on LinkedIn Live or YouTube, Please do feel free to put any questions or comments across. Nigel's already put a nice little comment across I can show. So Nigel, hi, looking forward to this as a major solution to helping companies' growth, because we're always happy to answer questions on the fly, and
yes.
that's what we're here for. If you are watching on catch up, but you have a burning question, Pete and myself are both easily accessible on LinkedIn. I'm under Nikki Gorange Larkin, just in case, because there's Nikki Larkin's a bit common, but there's only one Nikki Gorange Larkin. So do find us and reach out to us, because we're always happy to discuss things. But I'll go back to Pete, because continuing journey, because this is all really important stuff for growing a business so that you can exit. So
Yes.
crack on.
So we know we need to attract people, and we know that we need to keep them, right? So the thing about the looks is sometimes it will get people's attention, but when they get in and discover that there's no power in the engine, as it were, of their job, then they will leave. So what does a powerful engine look like in this analogy that I'm using? Again, I'm just going to bring up the slide because it's easiest to list things. So there you go, right? That when it comes to a job, what people care about, and I've got data to back up all of these points, which I'll do, and then we'll talk about them each individually, Nikki, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Number one is people want to work for a business that has a purpose, right? They're on a mission. There's a strategy to deploy that mission, and there's a vision about what the world will be like when you get there. And there are a lot of values. Now, we'll talk a lot about that values piece especially, but that matters to people. And I'll show you why, how much it matters in a second. The other thing is the remuneration package. Look, let's face it. Nobody works for someone out of the kindness of their heart. We do it because we expect to be rewarded for it appropriately.
Yeah.
But there are different ways to reward people that reflect different people's priorities.
Mm-hmm.
What often I see here is leaders, by their nature of businesses who've made it forward, have a certain mindset and view on remuneration, but their team don't necessarily share it. Yeah. So they offer something expecting it to motivate, and the team don't respond. All the time I see that.
I find a really good example at the moment, which is completely different to 20 years ago, is that, for example, in my accountancy practices, those of you who don't know me, I have several different businesses, and one of them is an accountancy practice. And surprisingly, a lot of accountants aren't money motivated. And a good example of proving that they aren't is we pay overtime. So anyone that is actually thinking, oh, I want more money, they could go, well, I'll just do 20 hours overtime a week, or 10 hours, whatever else. But very rare overtime is done. And that's a very different thing that it used to be. So it used to be often you think, well, I can just get 20% extra more by doing 10 more hours a week. But that's not, because now it's all about work-life balance, etc. So you just don't get regular, the standard sort of overtime levels that you used to do. So you have to take that all in account into your remuneration package.
You do, and I think I put a comment in if you've heard this phrase as well. Have you heard about lazy girl jobs?
Please be careful what you're about to say, Pete.
No, this is not me. This is
okay.
This is a trend on like TikTok and social media.
Oh, yes, I saw something about it last week.
Yes,
actually.
Yeah.
Yes. Right, carry on. Yep, you tell me.
Yeah. So fundamentally, I'm really worried now.
Who's heard about this lazy girl?
Crossing a line. Essentially, there are a lot of people, not just women, I think, but it's the social media people who are driving it forwards are women, talking about, you know what? I just want a job that I rock up at 9, I finish at 4, and while I'm there, it's easy to do. And
easy peasy.
Easy for me to deliver. And then I go and live my life with no stress and all those things. And I'm paid okay, but not brilliant. But
there's been a lot of TikTok videos on them, haven't there?
Yes, there have.
I have seen a couple.
A symptom of the attitude of definitely Gen Z, and I think a lot of millennials as well. People aren't, as you say, motivated.
It's job.
No.
That's it's job mentality, not a career.
That said, to go back to my list, again, I'll show you the data. A lot of development that talks about career and personal development being a priority for people. So it's not just your job, it's where can you go. And sometimes I acknowledge you can't take them anywhere internally, but you can say, come here, work for 3 years, and then move on. I've got a brilliant story about that. It's a football story. I apologise, Nikki, but brilliant story regardless. And then
Excuse
finally,
me, football. Why are you apologising? England's
because
runners-up, ladies runners-up in the World Cup.
it's more to do with the team it's about.
Okay, fine, fair enough.
So or the team that's mentioned. So the other thing is working practices and management. A lot of everybody knows this. People leave a bad manager.
Yes.
Right. So having clear definition about what it's like to work there and the management style you'll be under, really important. So let me just back some of these up with data, and then we'll talk about them in a bit more detail. So number one, forgive me for the cough. This was research done by Glassdoor. We've done our own research with other clients. We've done it in different industries and sectors. Pretty much always comes out this way. So I said mission, strategy, vision, and values. That's what it's about. Culture and values is top. Leadership, that's the management piece. Career opportunities, that was also on the thing. Business outlook, so where's the business going? And then, as you say, work-life balance, diversity, compensation, and benefits. Compensation is the best way to describe compensation. Remuneration is it's necessary but not sufficient. If you don't pay them enough, they won't come at all. Once you're offering enough, they'll start to pick and choose businesses because of the other things. Little extra doesn't have as much impact.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it matters. And this comes out all the time. Remuneration, this was some research we did ourselves online on LinkedIn, as you can kind of see. And we asked our audience, our network, what would you prefer? Would you like a higher basic with lower commission? So overall, you earn less. Do you want low basic but really high opportunity to earn? Or do you want higher basic and actually take a team bonus? So collectively you succeed and fail. And the interesting thing about that is not that the small number said your higher opportunity to earn, but when you looked at that 22%, they were all business owners. They were all senior leaders in big businesses, or they were the owner of their own business. That's the sample bias.
Question on this.
Sure.
Of this, the total pot available, Pete, you're doing a tremendous job suffering through on this. Thank you.
The sacrifices I made.
I'll try and talk a bit more to give it a rest for a few seconds. The three options there, if they hit the maximum on each of them, would they all be similar, or would some of them have been different potential pots?
No, smaller. You earn less. So it's an example. A classic example is recruitment, which is heavily commission based. You go in and say, right, you have billed 100 grand so far on a regular basis each month, each quarter. You've got a choice now. I can either pay you a wage, which is like 60 grand, and you have the opportunity to earn another 10 grand bonus, or it's just harder. Or I could pay you 40 grand, but with the commission on top, you've actually got the opportunity to earn more like 80, 90 grand. So higher opportunity to earn, higher OTE.
So therefore, the second option would have been the highest amount because
that's the most money.
But least popular, which I find very disappointing because that means they're all assuming that they're going to do badly. Therefore, otherwise, if they all thought they were going to do brilliantly, they would go for the second one.
That is a very typical response from all the people who own it, but that's not the reason people want it. People want it because your mortgage is tied to your salary, not your bonuses. Your predictability, the safety of knowing what you've got coming in is what they're after. But also,
so less stress.
Commission drives, in many instances, poor behavior. It makes you short-termist. So if you're just thinking, well, I've got to do this, otherwise I ain't going to have enough this month, you don't do the things that are slightly longer term, that are the right thing to do. But what you just said there, Nikki, is a classic example from this kind of research and the work we've done ourselves with people. You're a business owner. You just said, well, money is tied to performance. So if I don't want lots of money, it's a different mindset. They don't want the same things you want.
We're not trying to hire me. We're trying to hire the different ones. Yeah.
Correct. You're trying to hire. And your EVP may vary a little bit. So the EVP you put forwards to your senior leadership team when you're trying to recruit that will be quite different to the one you're trying to put forward to the people who you want to hire and stay.
Yeah, your
You don't want to promote, you want to stay
mid-tier managers. Yeah,
your
mid-level
mid-tier managers
managers.
down, juniors, and in that intake, you want them to turn up and stay. You
Yeah.
don't want people with ambition because you can't promote everybody all the time.
No.
So they'll
You
leave.
need to have a mix.
Exactly. So remuneration, again, a lot of data that says that's important. And then career development, forgive me. I mean, the research here is phenomenal. 90% want more training.
Yeah.
68% have reported they would leave because of a lack of training, and 87%, said career development training is important to them when surveyed. So that data is from a mix of different things.
Yeah.
Not
I definitely, I would concur that the training part is definitely seem to be more and more important these days, but you have to really label it clearly as training so that they realise they're having training.
Yeah.
On the job training doesn't seem to cut it, even though that's really, really important.
Well, there's a really, really interesting distinction here, because the thing to say about all of these, right, is you've actually got to deliver on them.
Yeah.
If you put together a really shiny website and a really cool careers great booklet and promote the crap out of it, and they come and they don't actually find it, they'll leave. But training and coaching, two very different things, which I'm going a little off piste here. Training is teaching someone how to actively do something. This is the process, or this is the system. Coaching is then teaching them how to make use of that knowledge. So in the way sales training is very easy. You've got to understand the problem, tie the problem to the feature of your product or your service that resolves it. And that's, understood. But you've then got to coach people to actually deploy it. And coaching is much more informal. And again, this ties into the management style, which is a lot of people aren't great coaches, aren't great managers. They're often promoted because of their competence at doing a certain job, and then they're given a team. And actually that's not the same thing.
Yeah, that always comes on across so much. That's such a common thing that people talk about. It's really important to appreciate your best technical people or your best billable people, etc. Your best salespeople are not necessarily the right people to become your sales director. It's different skill sets.
Yeah, and I know from talking to you in the past, Nikki, that when it comes to selling, which it's not what we're here specifically to talk about, when it comes to selling, the right people in the right roles will come out during due diligence, won't it? And if they're not the right people in the right roles, it impacts the price.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, and especially as it's a really hot commodity, people at the moment. So it is a really important part of the purchase.
Yeah, and this is if you've got a strong EVP that you can show people, look, this attracts candidates. We have this compared to the industry, and we retain people because we deliver on this. And it's a system. It's not just luck of who your manager is or who the leader is. It's a system that's built to deliver all these things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if it's showing that you're able to continually hire because you've got the good EVP and therefore you're able to grow your workforce, it's really important. So, for example, I was speaking to a business the other day that had been going through the process of a big growth cycle, and then their next step was going to be to sell after. However, they'd had to completely, because they didn't have a really good, effective EVP in place, they'd had to completely abandon their plans because they couldn't do the recruitment, attract and retain the right people. So that this isn't a nice to have if you're looking at selling your business. It is it's going to make you money, through your profitability, but also through how much money you're going to get when you exit.
Yes, I agree. And should we talk a little bit, Nikki? Because I know we've
only got about 5 minutes, so you do need to bring out the most. Because I'm sorry, I think I'd misled you on how long this one was going to be.
No,
so apologies.
It's quite all right. The next two things really that I think the first thing that comes out really is hopefully I've got across a little bit about why your EVP needs to be more than just the perks. That's the key message I wanted to get across. Number one, you've got to have more under the hood to offer people.
Yeah.
Now, what then people sometimes translate that into is, I haven't got anything under the hood. Crap, what do I do? Well, actually, a couple different things, really. one, you would work with somebody to help try and put something together, which I know you do, Nikki. But number two is you actually do have an EVP. You have employees and they are still there for a reason. So what my first recommendation to anybody is to create your EVP, find out what your actual EVP is, speak to your teams, go to your employees, use surveys, anonymous, so that they can feedback authentically, have conversations, but figure out, what do you think our mission is? What's the strategy? What's the vision? What's the value? Why do you stay? Why did you come? Why would you recommend us? And why wouldn't you? What are the things that would prevent you from recommending us to a colleague or a friend? What will be the thing that maybe makes you leave one day? What would you like to see different in our values? Work on those things and take version 1.0, because simply being able to better articulate the reason to work with you that you already have is a big step forwards. And then you can just iterate. So you look at it and you say, you work with your recruiter or you work with your HR team who are getting feedback from candidates and so on. Why aren't people biting? Well, the main thing is they don't believe in the mission, or you're not paying enough, or they don't see the career, and then work on that bit.
Another piece of useful data is your exit interviews with anyone that you are losing. That's a really good key one, because usually at that point they're not going to fudge it. They're going to tell you usually why they're actually leaving. So that's really, really useful.
Trick with exit interviews is get them to be done by someone who's relatively independent. Somebody who won't take offense, somebody who will hear a negative and won't like, well, that's not true, so I'll just ignore this, but will actively be like, oh, okay, tell me more about that, right? And if you think you've lost people and that opportunity's gone, reach out. You can reach out to former employees and say, listen, we're doing this. Would you speak to so-and-so? Because we want to get better. They'll probably do it, especially if they've already gone. So really, really good point. Thank you, Nikki. So creating your EVP is not that hard. And if anybody wants, reach out to me. I've got a very simple model you can use to know what you've got to fill in, basically. Again, I'm not a recruiter, so I don't want your business. Unless you are a recruiter, in which case I do. So that's how you create it. The next
but if you do need a recruiter, you can recommend a lot of good ones.
All the people I work with are doing this kind of stuff because it adds value to the client and it makes the recruitment process easier. So the other thing to think about is once you've got your EVP, how do you actually translate that into more people? And you've got to make sure it's incorporated. Your recruiters are using it when they're going to market. Your HR team are using it. With job descriptions, you're using it as part of your interview process. It's both interview and a bit of a pitch of the role to them. But the number one thing I would say that's easiest is start getting stories that prove your EVP on your social media.
Oh, we've got a question come through from Tim. Do you have a view of Glassdoor? Good question.
I do, Tim. I do. I mean, it'd be nice to know exactly what you mean by a view, but my view on Glassdoor, I think,
probably was a good thing or a bad thing. I like to just go and check to make sure that I haven't got anything on there. Is my view. But yes,
it's a source, right? Because the thing about Glassdoor is there are two types of people that put things on there: the very angry, or the people who've been told to because there's a push from HR.
Okay.
Yeah, let's be honest. We all know that. We all know that. So what you will pick up on there is you will pick up on the things that the people don't like, and that can be a useful source of information for where you need to focus your attention first. But again, the very angry are often very biased. Yeah. So I would look for the people in the middle, the ones who left but under good terms. They're the ones you really want to know about, because perhaps the people who left under bad terms was a bad value match in the first place.
It was interesting. Quite a few years ago, I was having problems with a specific client, and I saw their reviews on Glassdoor, which were horrendous. And then that made me feel it's not just me having a problem with that particular firm. It is everyone.
If you get it right, Glassdoor can not just be a tool for hiring; it can be a tool for attracting people. Clients like to know that the people they'll be working with are stable and happy. And it says a lot about you as a supplier, the way you treat your people. So if you can get your EVP nailed, and like social media is the first place, get videos out, get stories out, celebrate promotion, celebrate training completion, celebrate certifications, celebrate Pizza Tuesday if you've got it, get it out there so people will look people will look when they research you as a prospective employer or see a job ad. First place they go.
Absolutely. So the reason why we had this day, obviously, just for eyes, this is really to make sure that you can help to grow your business, and also really does affect the value of when you're selling your business by making sure that you get this sort of core thing in, because the buyers really are buying into the team. It's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Pete, would you like to sum it up for today? What would you
Yeah.
want to make sure, if there were like a couple things or something that you want to make sure that people take away from today?
First step is the easiest step, right? Ask your team why they stay. Yeah. That is your current EVP. And if it's good enough to get and attract them, just promoting it more will attract a few more people. And that will make your life better. And it's the easiest place to start.
Absolutely. We like the easy, quick things. Brilliant.
So I'm all about that, Nikki. Is there anything you want to sort of?
Oh,
So
that was it. That is your top thing. Okay, so
yeah, I'm done.
yeah, that's it.
Nailed it. Nailed
That's
that
all you have
first
to do. Excellent. Okay, that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you so much, Pete, and perfectly kept time. Really good. If you want to have any conversations, Pete, he is a real good. Real good. That sounds bad. He's an expert in this area, really good at referring to the right recruiters, etc. But please do have a chat with him and his team for pointing the right direction. And if you do need to you feel actually this is just beyond us, we really can't deal with it. If you need a referral for the right consultant, etc., Pete and his team can either say if this is within their area or whether they can refer somebody. Because between Pete and I, we know a lot of really good business consultants that can help with this kind of thing. So fantastic. So really good. That was started off the autumn well for our succession planning show. So I just want to go through. So next month, the second Wednesday, which is the 11th, it's not firmed up yet, but what we're hoping to be covering is about helping your management team step up. And one of the key things that we find of the ingredients that are there, which we need to get rid of, is imposter syndrome. So it's talking about how do we eradicate imposter syndrome so that we can encourage our management teams to really step up and really do well. That's fingers crossed what we're looking for. We've got some other really good things coming through for the next few months, but that's what we're really looking at over the 12-month period. We're really looking at the really important things over these 12 sessions to what are the things that can really help your business. If you're looking, even if you're not looking to sell, these are things that you can quickly implement and will help you improve your profitability. And if you are then looking to sell, will really help you in that exit process and to improve your sale price, but also increase the likelihood of you being able to sell, which is really important. Finally, we also are doing every quarter or so, we're doing a special succession planning event. Woo-hoo! Right on cue, Mr. Ames, which is our Path to Sale Zoom webinar. It's an extended session. It's on Zoom only. So if you are thinking of selling, you don't have to worry about everybody seeing your name on watching one of these, because it will be all confidential, but it's going through the process of what are all the different steps involved in selling so that you can try and track and plan your calendar for this, because it's amazing how many people that think, oh yeah, I'm going to sell my business next summer, but they haven't actually thought of all the steps that they need to take in order to have that happen. And when they work backwards, they think, oh my goodness, I should have started last year. And then they're already behind timetable.
Quick story to back that up. My father sold his first business, seven figures. Is that right? 8 figures. 8 figures he sold it for the first time. And he sold quickly because he felt he needed to. And he's realized since that he reckons that speed of sale, if he'd just taken a bit more time, that cost him, I think, about £2 or £3 million. Massive. Planning ahead, massive.
So plan,
good
plan,
webinar.
plan. Always my keyword. Lots of planning. You'll, 2 to 3 million. That's a lot to leave on the table. If you've done a bit of planning and if you'd attended the Zoom webinar, 29th of November, that could be worth £2 to £3 million to you, depending on the size of your business. So path to sell. So please do join us. The sessions to be able to book on them will be up very shortly on LinkedIn, so please do look out for them. But in the meantime, thank you so much. Thank you for joining our first ever succession planning show, and look forward to your company again next month. Thank you very much, Pete.
Thank you for having me.
Cheerio.